Hi, I'm here to do a SpongeBob SquarePants character ranking. SpongeBob has a lot of really memorable characters that I really enjoy. A lot of these characters have a big impact on me and really mean a lot to me. And it can be hard when it comes to some of the best characters. I think certain characters could be considered too low on the ranking, but that's what happens when there's so many good characters in a show. And I have 20 characters to rank. There were 19 characters I thought were pretty prominent. I wanted to uh, go to 20 because I thought that would be a better number. So I decided to include one character that's pretty much there for jokes to fill it out, which I will get to. And I think that's a decent way to go about things. I guess it could be debated if these are the 20 most important characters or not, but I feel like most of these characters are really prominent and important. And I would say most of these characters I do enjoy to a certain extent, except for the one in last place. The others I at least get some fun from, even if I'm not the biggest fan overall. Number 20 is Potty, who is often seen with Patchy. And Potty's just very disrespectful to Patchy, and honestly, I just feel sorry for Patchy. I feel like Potty's just disrespectful and rude, and just kind of a unpleasant character to have around. So out of these 20 characters, it's the one character overall I just don't care for. Number 19 is Pearl. Uh, Being the kind of character she is, she can come across as bratty and annoying in some episodes, but she's still an entertaining enough character, and there are moments where she can be likable. So even though she has a very low spot in the ranking, I don't think she's a bad character overall, and there are a decent number of episodes where she's an enjoyable character. Number 18 is Gary. There are some emotional moments with Gary where Gary can be an interesting character. For the most part, I don't really consider Gary to be one of the more exciting characters in the series, but like Pearl, I don't think Gary's a bad character. Number 17 is Karen. Karen has some entertaining moments, some good sassiness and stuff, just not a super exciting character overall, but definitely not a bad character. Number 16 is Mrs. Puff. She's a character that's often sympathetic because things really don't go well for her when SpongeBob gets involved. So she's a tragic character in that sense, and there's some entertaining episodes involving her, but I wouldn't really consider her one of my favorites, but a pretty enjoyable character. Number 15, Sandy Cheeks. I think that Sandy's a character that's not really funny like the other characters are, but she works well as a character that can be reasonable and considerate, and is overall a nice character to have around. Just not really as exciting as these other characters. Number 14 is Larry. Larry's just a charming, friendly guy, just a very solid supporting character. Number 13 is where I put the joke character, Fred. Uh, Fred is just hilarious with his recurring thing with his leg. Uh, a very sympathetic character and a hilarious character, and it was just too funny to put any lower. Number 12 is Bubble Bass, a character that used to not be a very prominent character in the series. It seemed like he was just there to be an antagonist for SpongeBob for one particular episode, and that pretty much seemed to be his only real purpose aside from quick cameos. And then Bubble Bass came back, and he became a really funny recurring character that got a lot of screen time and was very consistently funny. He's not really a super likable character, but I feel like he's not really meant to be. I think he's meant to be a really entertaining character that's consistently funny, and in that sense, I think he very much succeeds as a character. Number 11 is Patchy. Patchy is a really entertaining character. Love his huge enthusiasm for SpongeBob. He's a very consistently fun character to have around and adds a lot to the episodes that he's in. Number 10 is the Dirty Bubble. And in terms of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy villains, the Dirty Bubble works really well as long as I don't compare him to Man Ray. I'm definitely going to get to Man Ray later, but the Dirty Bubble is very entertaining as a character, too. Very funny, and episodes involving him tend to be a lot of fun, whether he has a major role or just a quick appearance. He's a really good character to have around. Number 9 is the Flying Dutchman, a supporting character that I can pretty much always rely on to be really entertaining, really cool. He's intimidating, but he also fits the comedic tone of the show. Just a very consistently strong character. Number 8, I think, could be the most unpopular opinion I have in this ranking. I really care about this character. This character means a lot to me. This character is very funny, very likable, very enjoyable. There's a lot to really appreciate about this character. Number 8 is SpongeBob SquarePants. And not even putting SpongeBob in my top 5 could seem ridiculous, and it could seem very confusing. The thing is, I think that SpongeBob serves his role very well. There are characters I find to be funnier, and characters that have more interesting stories, but even though SpongeBob isn't in the top 5 or even the top 7, he is still a good main character, and he brings a lot of happiness out, and I could understand if somebody would like him the most, and there's a lot to really appreciate about him, and he is a good character. And really, the top 8, I mean, they're all really strong characters, and really I'm ranking them based off of my personal preferences. So I kind of prefer things about the other characters, but SpongeBob is a good character. Number 7 is Patrick Star. And really, why he's ahead of SpongeBob is simply because I think he's funnier, and a lot of the show's itself's charm comes from the humor, and Patrick is pretty hilarious. And there are a lot of episodes in later seasons where he can be unlikable, which does hold him back from being higher in the ranking, but he's too funny of a character, has too many hilarious moments for him to be any lower. Number 6 is Sheldon J. Plankton. Plankton adds so much. There's so many episodes, whether it's early on or actually even in later seasons, where Plankton is really good, a very entertaining villain. The rivalry between him and Mr. Krabs is one of the most interesting aspects of the show, and seeing him come up with new plans is a lot of fun. He's a character that could have gone boring, but I don't think that really happens often. I think he's very consistent. So I do really like the character. Didn't quite make the top 5, and that's really because there's a lot of competition, because there's a lot of really good characters. Number 5 is Mr. Krabs. A hilarious character, character that's not necessarily the most likable, which holds him back just a little bit, but he's often the funniest character, with his obsessions with greed and stuff. He serves this role very well. I really enjoy what's going on between him and Plankton, and he can be a likable character sometimes, so I do really like the character. Number 4 is Squidward Tentacles. And I often relate to Squidward to a certain extent, where I can understand why SpongeBob and Patrick bother him. I don't really relate to Squidward being quite as angry, and I think that Squidward can be a little rude sometimes, but I do think that I can relate to a character that just wants to relax, doesn't like all those loud noises, and Squidward goes through so much, and in a lot of cases, he is a tragic, sympathetic character and is often the most relatable and likable of the lead characters. I am a huge superhero fan, so I think that'll explain my number three and number two, who do go together: Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. Two really good superhero characters that are very cool, also being very funny. And Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy left a huge impact on the show, and really, the show is not the same without them. It really isn't. And it's understandable why they wouldn't be major characters anymore, with the voice actors sadly no longer being with us. But them being absent is one of the reasons why the later seasons aren't as good as the early seasons. And then my number one, this is very much a huge personal preference, is Man Ray. Man Ray is, in my opinion, the coolest character in SpongeBob. An amazing design, great presence, such a cool character. A lot of my favorite SpongeBob episodes are episodes where Man Ray shows up, where if Man Ray's in an episode, I feel like that's a must-see episode. I have to see it. He can be a very exciting villain. He can also be a hilarious character. At times he can even be sympathetic and just want checks with little poodles on them. And he is a very interesting, entertaining character that I really, really enjoy. He is so cool, and I think he could legitimately be an awesome arch enemy in if Mermaid Man Barnacle Boy got a TV show, or it could even be an arch enemy for a different superhero. I think he can be a legitimately cool character while also being a really funny character. So I think he can work as both. So I love Man Ray, and I can understand why he wouldn't be very high on people's rankings, like wouldn't even be in their top 10. But this is very much just how I feel about it, and feel free to let me know what you think of my ranking.